Hey, and there we are live on Facebook, in the Facebook group and on YouTube. Um, Good evening. Well, if you're in the UK, good evening. If you're anywhere else in North America, so good day to you all. It's great to have you here. I'm loving doing these live streams. Fantastic. But I'm not the only person today. I've got a special guest on the live stream. That's something that I want to continue over the next few months. That should be fun. Yeah, welcome. Make sure you leave some comments. Get in touch and let's make this a conversation because we've got some amazing images to look at, and it's going to be fantastic. Carol is here to listen in. Hi, Carol. How's it going? Hope you enjoyed this. Where are you listening from? Are you listening on Facebook or on YouTube? Interesting to know. And then we've got somebody listening from Zurich. Hey, how's it going? I can't see your name. It just says Facebook user. Type your name in the comment section. It'd be amazing to know who's listening from Zurich, all the way from Zurich. Fantastic. Okay, well, let me bring on our special guest for today. It is none other than Mr. Dave Williams. How's it going, man?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not unpacked yet, as you can potentially see from what's going on around me, but I did organize a good chair, so that's a good start.
Yeah, I saw that last time we talked on Zoom or FaceTime or something. The one thing you had sorted out was your gaming chair already.
Yeah, that's all you need, right?
That's
If you're
that's all you need.
comfortable, you can get a lot of work done, which is exactly what's happening right now. I was writing and editing blogs, so now minimize that screen and I'm all yours.
Cool. I'm just looking at some of the comments coming. That's hilarious. Vegas, baby. Hey, Daniel, how's it going?
Vegas. I knew it was going to be Daniel, and my guess for Vegas, I reckon that's Rocky.
Oh,
Facebook user from Vegas, baby. Is that
that's
Rocky? Let's find out.
awesome. I've got Carol from YT. Where is that? Where's YT?
YouTube.
What is YT? Oh, YouTube. Sorry. Okay, cool. Of course, that's what I was asking, really. Are you listening on YouTube or on Facebook? Yeah, I'm thinking like, where is YT? What state is that? Is that state? About YouTube. Yeah, the state of YouTube. It's going to be a state of its
I
own
mean,
very soon,
YT, is that Connecticut?
Connecticut. I thought it was Yukon.
Utah.
the province of Yukon. Even further north than the Yukon, you see.
Huh. Well,
Cool.
here's a bit of trivia. Being a German Canadian, what is the northernmost Canadian province?
Or the Northern Territories, I would say.
No.
Oh, okay.
You have, well, how long is this going to be? About an hour?
Well,
You have an hour to find the answer.
okay, Google, where are you? Right.
Colorado. Hi, Carol in Colorado. Yeah, Daniel, I don't know what's happening, but every time someone comments on Facebook, it just says Facebook user.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Let me just see. Let me put those. Oh, Facebook too. Okay, cool. So you can see us, Carol. You can see us on Facebook and on YouTube. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Why? Yeah. Why is your name not shown, Daniel? I have no idea. Zero idea. First of all, I mean, this is the first time we're sort of doing like a proper live stream. I did one last week as a bit of a test, but yeah, Colorado, fantastic. Never been to Colorado. Actually, always wanted to go to Colorado. Have you ever been skiing or something, Dave? Have you been to Colorado?
I've not skied in the United States, no. But if that is Rocky, Rocky will know a bit about skiing in Colorado, I think.
Right.
But no, I haven't.
Cool.
All my skiing has been done in Europe.
Well, we're going to have a look at some of your images because today I want to give it a bit of a theme. So today I want to really have a look at some awesome landscape photography. And seeing that I have you on, I thought we could talk about some of your images and then we could talk about like how you achieved those images and how you created those in the first place. But before we get there,
Okay.
let me just say one thing. I'm going to mention it several times. If you want to support the podcast, you can go and buy me a coffee because Camera Shake Podcast is now on buymeacoffee.com/Camera Shake. Buy me a coffee. You can buy me a coffee. Very simple. easy thing. You can support the podcast. Buy me a coffee. Literally, buy me a coffee. I have a coffee here. I need more coffee. You can, you can buy me a coffee. Coffee
I'll
with
take a
milk.
coffee.
Coffee
I'll take a coffee.
espresso. All you have to do is go to buymeacoffee.com. Love it. It's one of these things. I'm listening. I'm learning Swedish at the moment, as you know, because we're sort of, we're friends on Duolingo, right? So I can see your progress,
Are
and you
we?
can see. Yeah.
What?
I'm Bob.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
Swedish
you're
Bob.
Bob.
I'm Bob.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. You
yeah.
need to
I'm Bob
catch
because
up, Bob.
well, yeah. I know you're doing really well. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm doing. I'm
I'm
okay.
doing really well because I have to take tests in Norwegian,
Yeah. You know what
so I
I found?
have to do well.
You know what I found really useful? So I'm doing two things. I'm doing Duolingo, but I'm also listening to some Swedish podcasts. And one podcast in particular is called Lätt Svenska med Oscar. And it's really cool. It's basically just a guy
Who's
who
Oscar?
talks. Well, it's a guy called, I think, Oscar Lindgren or something. And basically what he does is he does these short podcast episodes, just a few minutes long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and he's just talking about a particular topic in Swedish, but it's easy Swedish. So it's slow and it's easy to understand, and it starts with, something like hello, greetings, that sort of thing. But it's great
Yeah.
because there's virtually no translation or anything. It's 99% just Swedish. And I'm really amazed that after 54 days or something of learning Swedish, how much I actually understand. So that method works really well for me. English, Norwegian, 500 plus. Flashcards. Okay, great. Yeah, that's another really great way of doing it. With pictures for babies. Yeah. Fantastic.
It works.
Oh, absolutely. But try that if you haven't tried it yet.
Word
Try that.
searches,
Yeah, try that immersion
stories,
method. Yeah, stories are good.
magazines. What do you mean, try the immersion method? I'm in
You're
Norway. I
there.
can't be more immersed.
You're there, exactly.
Literally can't be more immersed. Everybody is talking
Yeah.
to me in Norwegian so
Oh,
that I
fantastic.
learn it faster.
Yeah. Well, and no doubt you will. No doubt you will. Because
I have
I
to.
find that even after 54 days of immersing myself in Swedish, I am really impressed with how much I actually understand. And
Hmm.
it's very interesting actually to see the similarities between Swedish and German, but also between Swedish and English. And if you're fluent in both German and English, it's sort of the perfect mix because
Yeah.
you can pretty much understand. Like I'd say, I don't know, maybe like 60%.
Yeah. They're in the
Yeah,
same family.
yeah, exactly. And it's a really interesting thing how sometimes like words that are really old fashioned in German are the current words for a certain term, in Swedish. And as soon as you grasp that, you go like, oh well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So yeah. Anyway, there we are. Oh, something's
So,
happening with right. Cool.
what are your stats?
What are my stats on Duolingo?
Yeah. No, on the live stream for the first sort of proper live stream. How are we doing so far?
I think we're doing really well.
We're
I think yeah, we've got people
we're
watching.
multinational.
We're
Awesome.
multinational. That's very cool. That's all I can see on my end. All I can see is people leaving comments. I can't really see how many people are watching anything. In fact, for that, I would have to look at
Okay.
my phone. But
You haven't actually introduced me.
have I not? Well, that's Dave
No.
Williams right there. Cool. Let me just have a look. Can I see how many people are watching? I don't know that I can. Anyway, so what we are okay. So what we're doing in this particular live stream, we've got a like. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, if you are watching, leave a comment so we know we're there, because otherwise we can't really see who's there. Anyway, so we're gonna look at some of your images, and I've picked a number of images. Let's see if we get through all three of them, but we'll try. What I want to talk about is first of all, of course, the location they were taken, but also how
Yeah.
you achieved those shots, because those are
Okay.
three of your shots that I've known for a long time, because I know you work. But three of those shots where I'm thinking like, how the heck has he done that? So, oh, Daniel says he got us a first like on YouTube. Perfect. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the like button, obviously. Cool. So let's have a look. Okay, so this is experimental since this is the first, the first live stream where we're doing that sort of thing. Oh, the picture looks sharper on Facebook. Oh, how interesting. I don't know what it is. Well, cool. Anyway, so in theory, if I press a particular button on my little stream deck here, then in theory, the first image should fly in. Let's see if that works. Here we go. Ta-da! Cool.
It's a tool picture that's squished.
Yeah. So I don't know why it's doing that. There are things that have to iron out on this.
Okay.
Anyway, so what are we looking here, Dave? What are we looking at here, Dave?
This is the Lofoten fishing village of Hamnøy, the island of Hamnøy. Oi, O-Y, it's not an O, it's an O with a line through it. That means island, so it's Hamn Island, Hamnøy. It is about 60, 70 kilometers roughly to my west right now. And it's an iconic location here in the Lofoten Islands where people go and stand in this one spot and take the photo over the village with a mountain in the background facing almost north. It's kind of northeast. So the northern lights, if they're present and the weather isn't hugging the mountains, will give you a beautiful display above the town at night. So those red cabins on the rocks there, they're called råbu. Råbu is a fisherman's cabin, and the red is a mixture of cod liver oil and fish blood, which was used to treat the wood to protect it. So it's not paint, it's fish blood. So that's what the photo is of. And obviously the northern lights are there in the background, but just off the top of the screen.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to work on how to fit those images into the screen. So that'll be next time's live streams subject.
Okay.
How can make those images actually fit? But for now, I press a button, the picture comes up. So I'm gonna win there as far as that's concerned. But it's a very famous. It's a very famous image. You see that image a lot in lots of different contexts.
Yeah.
There's two questions I have. First of all, what makes that particular image and that particular angle so popular? And secondly, where are you? Actually, are you on a mountain there?
Okay. So the reason it is such an iconic location is because it's the only location. It's a bridge that connects that island to the next island. And so you don't have any other choice. The only way to get above the water is to go up on the bridge. That's the only place to get that view. So the reason everyone's photos are composed very similarly is because they can only move laterally. They can move left and right. They can't go up, down, or any other direction because they are on a bridge.
Right. Okay.
So that's why everything looks the same. So if you move left and right, obviously if you move to the left from there, the mountain goes further to the left and the houses go further to the right. But it's the same view. It's iconic, it's recognizable, but everyone gets the same perspective because it's on a bridge. Hamnøy.
Cool. So you're not too far from there. You said like 60, 70 kilometers away from that particular spot?
About that. Yeah. So I'm near Svolvær, in a little village called Kabelvåg in the Lofoten Islands. So I'm basically right in the middle, the perfect position. So I can go that way for those views. I can go east into the forests and the mountains and some other villages in either direction as well. I'm basically right in the middle.
Okay, cool. So how did you shoot that particular image? What was the what sort of lens choices did you make?
That's a 14 mil. I think it's wide open at 14. It's f2.8. I used a platypod and a strap. So I had the strap secure the platypod to the railings of the bridge. So I had a stable base. The reason I did that is because the bridge itself, the railings, are about eye level. And so there's not many tripods that when the legs are splayed out will give you that much height and stability because it's a very windy place. um, the gaps between the metal railings on the bridge are quite thin as well. So for a bulbous 14mm lens, you can't squeeze it through the gap. You might be able to for a regular, like a 24-70, that size of lens. But for a 14-24, I couldn't get it through the gap. So I went for the top of the railings shot. And I opened the lens up. I can't remember how many exactly, but it's about 5 seconds, maybe. Not very long, because it's
There's a
quite
question.
bright.
All right, there's a question coming in from Daniel. Have you light painted the rocks and the nearest houses?
No. The light hitting the rocks is from the street lights on the bridge, spilling over.
Okay, what's the exposure time on this? Roughly?
About 5 seconds, roughly. Yeah, about 5 seconds. You can see there's a light trail on the main road above the cabin on the right. It's quite a
Right, yeah.
bright light trail. So it's a few seconds, but it's not very many because the northern lights were very bright. The town was very bright. So I wanted the ISO low to be able to deal with everything that was going on there because of the variation in light. Obviously, there's virtually no light on the mountain, and you can see from the more distant mountains, there's literally no light hitting it at all. So yeah, it's quite a short exposure to deal with the light, the ambient light within the scene.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. What's another really good example of how how you can use platypus gear really to get your camera into just about any position. Like that
Yeah,
strap. That strap is actually so cool. It's like I tried, well, I experimented with strapping my camera to a tree the other day. It worked perfectly.
yeah. This is the larger strap that comes in the multi-accessory kit, which is big enough to get around, me. So I don't want to pull my headphones off, but it's big enough to get around my head. So it's a pretty good one. There's a slightly smaller one that comes with the Ultra, but this is the big one.
Cool. All right, I've got another image of yours that I want to talk about, and it's probably cut off on the top as well. But let's have a look at this one.
Ooh,
So that is really a stunning image, and
yeah.
not only do I love the colors, and it's very monotone,
Mm.
but I love the smoothness and the creaminess of the sea, and the surf. But the rock formation is just mind blowing. It actually looks like, in many ways, it looks like a CGI graphic rather than a photograph. Where's that?
Um, so that is down on the west coast of Norway. It's quite far from people, to be honest. It's called the Skjellesteinen, which means kettle stone or kettle rock. And it's interesting because it looks like, well, obviously you can see what it looks like. It looks like there's a big boulder suspended on the eroded lower part of itself, and it's right on the edge of the sea. It's a kind of a false perspective because if you go to the side of it, it's not like a thin, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like a twig sticking up. That thin section is actually front to back very deep. It's just looks thin from this particular angle. But this is somewhere that you have to take a couple of ferries, and it's hard work to get to it. So not many people visit because it's close to Bergen, but it's far enough away to make it hard work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Up on the west coast, just just south of Ålesund, the Atlantishavsveien, the Atlantic Ocean Road. So yeah, this is the Skjellesteinen, or Cannasteinen is how it's spelled.
Cool.
It's
And I've
another
just
platypus.
right. I've just figured out how I can see how many people are watching this. 9 people watching right now. Make sure you put something in the comments so we know that you're actually real and not bots. Who knows?
We want to know
Um,
where you are as well. Where in the
Absolutely, yeah,
world
yeah.
are you?
Fantastic. So far because Zurich and Colorado, and of course we've got Norway in your case and the UK in my case. So if you're watching right now. Pop something in the comments, no matter whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. But yeah, put something in the comments. Let us know where you are, because that'd be super interesting. It's actually,
Absolutely.
this is one of the things I love. This is probably the one sort of behind the scenes statistics that I love about the podcast, especially on the audio version of the podcast, because in the statistics bit, I can see uh, a world map. Oh, Facebook user says switched from YouTube to Facebook. Sharper image apparently. Yeah, check that out. It's this. By the way, there's two Facebook groups sort of thing. There's a Facebook group and there's a Facebook page. The Facebook page is really, I don't know. That's what we set up when we first started the podcast. I I'm probably gonna bring the Facebook page to an end in the near future and move everything over to the group. So the Facebook group is basically where we've got a chat going and there's like conversations happening and stuff like that. So and that's where we're streaming this live stream or these live streams too as well. So you can watch them. Ooh, Kabelvok in Lofoten. In Lofoten, there you go. Ah,
Hey, I'll bet that.
okay. Give me the proper pronunciation of this.
Kabelvog.
Kabelvog. Oh yeah, cool.
Kabelvog.
Kabelvog. Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah.
No. There's no G.
Yeah.
Kabelvog. Kabelvog.
Kabelvog. Okay. Kabelvog. Cool. All right. By the time I make it up to Lofoten, you'll see that my Swedish pronunciation would have been perfected.
Yeah. And you'll find that nobody cares.
Yeah, because we're annoying. But there you go. Anywho, yeah. So anyway, yeah, let us know if you are again if you're watching. It'd be super interesting to know where you're from. Like I said, on the audio version of the podcast, there's this map, this world map, and I can see very broadly speaking, I can see where people are listening from. So when I say very broadly speaking, like let's say if somebody is like in, I don't know, if somebody's listening from Dallas, Texas, for example, it's like the greater Dallas area. That's basically as precise as it is. Probably within I don't know, like a 100-mile radius or something like that, roughly speaking.
It depends whether your IP is trackable, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes.
If you're using a VPN, then maybe it might just say America. It might say nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Daniel is saying, just had a look where Kabelvog is in the Foten. Wow, so awesome. Yeah, that whole area is incredible. Very incredible part of the world. In fact, of course, if you want to have an opportunity to come to Lofoten, then you can join Dave and me in one of our workshops that we're going to be running there starting soon. So have a look at idavewilliams.com/education. Is that what it is? Training. Sorry, idavewilliams.com/training. Check that out. It's a whole bunch of workshops in the Lofoten Islands that would be absolutely fantastic. And it'd be great to see some of you there. Of course.
I think there's still a spot open on the September one. If anyone wants to join us, I will give you 5% off.
Ooh, there you go. You heard it here first.
If you want to come,
if you buy me a coffee,
if you buy Kirsten a coffee, and you go to idavewilliams.com/training, go to the September workshop, the first one. The second one's sold out already. The first one has still got a spot available. Use the code Dave5 and you'll get 5% off.
There you go. Also, Micah Burke listening in.
Hey, Micah.
Also, Micah, how's it going? We'll talk about. I'll tell you what. Since Micah's on listening, we'll talk about the little AI project that we did as well in a second. But before we do that, let's move on to the third image, and that's completely stretched out on this. So I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna have to work on this. But for now, there it is.
Okay.
Cool. So this one,
this is Iceland.
This is sort of a drone shot. Is that right?
Yeah, this is Iceland.
It's Iceland. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's not a drone shot. I was in a plane. Okay. So Adobe kindly gave me some money to spend. Well, it was Adobe money. It was arranged by Russell Preston Brown very kindly. It gave me some money to spend on some aerial photography in Iceland to experiment with some new tools and techniques for Photoshop and Lightroom. And so this is a shot from the plane. Where exactly? It's on the southwest coast of Iceland. But let me tell you, when you're flying over Iceland, looking out the window higher than a drone can get, you get some incredible colors, patterns, textures, compositions. It's great fun. So yeah, this is one of those pictures.
Yeah, the colors in this I thought were really striking. And of course, unfortunately, we can't see the whole picture because this thing, for some reason, stretches the whole thing out. Again, working on this for next time. But yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it just, at first, I didn't really necessarily understand what I was looking at. Do you know what I mean? This could
Yeah,
have been like some bizarre macro shot or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It
yeah.
was, yeah, it's incredible.
So it's a
Here's,
glacial river during
right.
a time that the water that cut. So if you get blue water in Iceland, it means it's coming straight out of the glacier. It's pure.
Okay.
If it's yellow, it's going over farmland. If it's brown, it's going over farmland. If it's grey, it's going over rocks and gravel on massive floodplains. So this one's yellow, so it's gone over some kind of arable farmland before, and it's picked up the minerals that are in the grass and in the ground there. Perhaps a bit of sulfur because it's yellow, some other chemicals, minerals, and then it's flowing out in that color.
Awesome.
Mm.
Cool. Let's have another quick look at that image. I can just press a button. I love the fact that all I have to do is press a button and the image comes up. Ta-da! Awesome. Cool. Now, well, seeing that Micah is on the show, we can have a quick chat about our most recent AI project and what that was all about.
Oh,
I've got,
you mean my genuine trip to Finland that definitely
yes,
happened?
exactly, the genuine trip to Finland that actually happened. Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course, there's an episode a few weeks back where we talked about exactly what was going on in detail. But yeah, in a nutshell, basically, you went to Finland, or did you?
I definitely went to Finland. So, with all the AI stuff that's happening, and with Adobe releasing generative fill in Adobe Photoshop, which is the technology from Adobe Firefly, I decided I want to see just what people make of this and if it's possible to make people believe something that is not true. Because if you look at Facebook recently, there's a huge emergence of unreal photos. And I'm talking like, here's one I saw recently. I saw one of the Mona Lisa with, what's his name? Who painted the Mona Lisa? Van Gogh? No. Uh, Whoever
Uh,
painted the Mona, oh, it's Da Vinci. No, it
Da
wasn't.
Vinci, yeah. Duh.
Yeah, it was Da Vinci. A photo of Da Vinci and Mona Lisa, and I keep seeing it shared, and it's completely fake. And I wanted to see, well, if people seem to be believing that, will they believe something as basic as me doing something that I would do anyway? Can we get it past people? And it was kind of a social experiment to see, to test the limits and see how we could like demonstrate in quite an innocent way that this is not the truth. All these things that you're seeing on social media, like giants next to trees that have fallen over. What else do I keep seeing? I keep seeing like circus freaks as well. There's loads of stuff that I keep seeing that is clearly not real. So yeah, I decided, well, if I do something that I would ordinarily do anyway, go on a trip somewhere to take some photos, have an adventure, but it's completely fake. Could we get away with it? Who would notice? Would anyone notice? And what would the after effects of that be? So, you and I, Kirsten, obviously went for a walk to your local park and took some photos, which we then use the generative fill inside Adobe Photoshop to turn into Finland. Micah took some of me and some blank canvases to create some other shots, like the waterfall shot, the reindeer in the forest. And we came up with 13 photos that I released as Instagram stories over the course of 3 days, with an incredible guilt, but with the overriding thought that I'm just seeing what's happening here. I'm seeing what AI is all about, what it does, what people think, and I want people to call me out on it. Over those 3 days, one person, they replied on an Instagram story. They said, "This looks fake," smiley face emoji. So it was like they knew, but they didn't want to. They didn't want to be so bold as to say this is fake. They said this looks fake. And in the end, thousands of, so what have I got? 37 and something thousand followers. A few thousand of which saw the story. It concerned me that one person made a comment and that was it. Everyone else just went along with it. And we were playing with the fact that I would have gone to Finland. It's something I would do. And we made everything look sort of realistic and nondescript. So it wasn't like I went to the Eiffel Tower, because you'd recognize the Eiffel Tower. It was just like generic Finland. Yeah, it concerns me that no one really saw. No one really saw the lie behind it. It's been since featured by DIY Photography and Petapixel, and the pictures are still up on my Instagram account. If you look at my story highlights, look for vacation, spelt VAI-cation, and you'll find that at iDaveWilliams on Instagram.
I think it's probably Carol, a Facebook user, is saying fibbing via AI is all over the internet. Some of it looks awful and some of it looks real. Totally true. I mean, some of it really does look god awful, but some of it is incredibly real. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, you know, initially when generative fill first came out in Photoshop Beta, I made an episode where I took one of the images that I shot of you, where you were pouring some coffee powder into a coffee jug. And you were holding a glass jar with coffee powder, and you were pouring it into like a coffee jug type of a thing. And all I did was, and this is really just a little experiment. I basically just used a lasso tool, selected basically the coffee powder inside of the jar, and then the coffee powder pouring into the other jug, and then I just typed water into the description box, and that was it. That was the only prompt, just water, boom. And it just, that was an incredibly photorealistic render. It just took, I mean, not only did it turn the coffee powder into transparent and translucent water, but it also created the background. Like, for instance, you were holding the jar with one hand, and of course, part of your hand was obscured by the coffee powder that was in the jar, but it filled in the distorted bit of your hand as it would be were you to look through a glass jar. It was incredible. And it also filled in the graphics on your t-shirt. And of course, if you look really, really closely, and if you knew the original graphics on a t-shirt, you would say like, okay, well, there was some creative license in there. But actually, it was still pretty damn convincing. I mean, if you hadn't ever seen the original image beforehand, that would have completely passed. That would have 100% passed. And that was so easy. Yeah. I mean, it took absolutely no time at all to do that. That was quite mind-blowing. I ran a few other tests and it didn't really work out that well. Especially I did a little pirate test, and then it doesn't seem to like pirates. But yeah, I mean, all in all, your little experiment of putting yourself in a place and creating imagery to essentially fool the the viewer, that overall actually went pretty positive. I mean, the vast majority of people literally thought you were in Finland or traveling through Finland.
Yeah. And I apologize to everyone for doing what I did, but I think the point was made that you should not believe everything you see, because AI is very smart and it's everywhere, and it's accessible and it's cost effective. Anyone can do it. If I can do it,
And
trust me, anyone can do
I think
it.
the point was that, I mean, any pretty much all of the images that we created as part of that, you would have been able to do the same thing in Photoshop, no doubt. But the difference being, it would have taken a lot longer. It would have been
Yeah,
a lot harder. It would have
yeah,
taken a lot more knowledge and expertise to do it. So that immediately limits the pool of people who would have been able to basically pass this off. And and also in Photoshop, by and large, we would have had to pick elements from other images to fill in, to fill in the backgrounds and so on.
yeah.
With AI, we're basically creating completely brand new sceneries. Like, I mean, I'm not only
Yeah.
thinking about like the image on the, on a finished street, for example, or in front of the cottage or something. I'm thinking like the image at the airport, for example, where you're sitting down on a bench. In actual fact, you were sitting in my living room on a wooden bench against my
Hmm.
living room wall or dining room wall. That was it.
Yeah.
So you weren't anywhere near an airport lounge, and certainly the bench or the chairs that you were sitting on weren't in any way, shape, or form airport lounge chairs. Yet in the final image, it appears as though that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And there are some things that were easier than others when we were making these images. That was a tricky one. But there's a food one. Remember the food one where we did the top-down view of your table with nothing on it,
Yeah,
and we
yeah, that's
we
funny.
put lunch on the table and
Yeah,
coffee
well,
and
literally,
water,
yeah, quite literally.
and there were
Yeah, we
some
literally.
things that we weren't happy about, and some things that it just nailed it the first time, and it was crazy.
Yeah, Mike is saying the airport one was extremely convincing. I think so too. It was. Do you know the food thing actually? So that was a funny one because we literally just took a picture of my table that was empty. So a
Yeah,
top down image
yeah.
of my tabletop, it was empty. There was nothing on it. And I remember we were like experimenting a little bit. We spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes just trying out different prompts, trying out different things. And there were a lot of those, a lot of the results weren't really convincing. Either the angle wasn't 100% right or, um, some of it wasn't really quite, you know, you had like, you had a plate with a particular food item on it, like a soup or something. The plate looked realistic, the soup looked realistic, but the two things didn't really quite fit together, and it took a
The
little bit
it
of
it was
panache
like
to get it.
it was like the lighting was too good, like studio lighting to an effect.
Yeah, true.
It was one thing that is really good in generative fill is the lighting, but it was like it was too good for a snapshot with a mobile phone, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes it is. I mean, some of the coffee shots, like the top-down coffee shots, they're a little bit too perfect. Like especially when you see like the shapes of the froth and something like that. Like no real coffee actually looks like that. I mean, I don't remember ever going to a coffee shop and getting like a perfect, picture perfect coffee. That just doesn't actually happen. So
Hmm.
especially not when you're traveling and you're going into some joint just to get coffee. So yeah, sometimes you're right. Sometimes it was just a little too perfect. Maybe that's a giveaway.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's new technology. There are other AI, what's the word I want? Companies? No. Engines. We'll go with engines. There are other AI engines that have been about for longer than Photoshop. And the reason that is because they just wanted to jump straight on it. Adobe wanted to really look at the ethical side of things. So they're not going around stealing things from the internet to train their model. They are doing it all with images they own. They're supervising the machine learning process a lot more closely. And so, although there are some AI engines that are faster or better, they're kind of unethical to an extent. So
I mean,
I
Mike is
don't
making
think it's going to
another.
be very long before Adobe's really good at animals and hands and things, eyes,
Yeah,
the things that the others took a while to get used to. I think Adobe's going to reach that point faster, but it's it's also, I don't know, people like graphic designers, editors, things like that. Their companies have contracts to use certain software, and a common one is Adobe. And so there's going to be a lot more AI use from bigger companies that use Adobe software in their everyday line of work. Whereas before, like with Midjourney and all that stuff, it was quirky and unusual. With having the having that technology inside of Photoshop and inside Illustrator, of course, as well, because Firefly isn't just about generating fill.
Yep.
It's going to be much more accessible. So there needs to be some sort of policing. There needs to be some framework so that the less intelligent people out there don't share things as if they're real when they're not real. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. There's, I think there. What did I read? Was it today? Yesterday, I read that some of the big, the big digital companies like Apple, Google, and so on, have come together to decide on like a framework for that. I think they got together with
Yeah.
the Biden administration or something like that. Um, I have to
Well,
really be into that, but
there's the content authenticity initiative, which Adobe's a part of, but that's more to do with identifying photoshopped bikini models and stuff. But it would fit nicely into that umbrella.
sure. And I mean that's a particular issue that we've been grappling with for quite some years. Is the sort of photoshopping of advertising models, for example. They're not only advertising models, but fashion models and all the rest of it. Like basically human shapes in advertising in general, and the impact that that has on self-image and self-confidence and self-esteem, especially with young people, children and young people, because they
Yeah,
consume that kind of content all the time, and because you know because they're used to seeing enhanced reality in inverted commas, may end up feeling rather negative about their own body image, and that's a valid point. I remember taking part in a thing at my children's school a few years ago, before COVID, where that was the the, the talking point. So there was a whole what do you call it? Um, there's like a whole event just around that, and I thought it's easy to take that a little too far, on the other hand. And I thought, because I was sitting in this talk and I'm thinking like, I spent all day retouching people, you
mm,
know, and so there's there's a reason why we use Photoshop, and it's not all bad. Do you know what I mean? But it's very easy to kind of convey that in that light. But I fully agree as far as advertising is concerned, as far as body shapes and body proportions are concerned. Um, you know, and I can't remember exactly which country it is. Maybe one of the Scandinavian countries. Is it Finland or Norway? Some country,
Sweden,
something
Finland,
like that. Finland, yeah.
Finland.
As
Yeah,
far as I know, so any retouched image in advertising has to be clearly marked as having been altered in that respect. And
yeah.
that's fair enough, absolutely, because then we can make the
But
distinction between reality and
the
and
problem I see with
fantasy.
that is what's the where's the line? Because every image that comes out of your camera is altered, and so
Yeah,
where do you draw the line at what the definition of altered means? You know?
absolutely, and that's exactly where the discussion has to be. Whether it's
Mm,
changing body proportions, for example, or whatever. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a digital image that comes out of my camera in raw form anyway. So
yeah,
even if you just talk colors for a minute, even by just essentially coloring it properly, it's already been altered. And
yeah.
that's fair enough. So yeah, that's the point exactly. Where's the line? Um, Okay, Micah says, yes, this has been my argument all along. We all perceive things differently. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, totally. And, and sometimes it's not necessarily, for instance, if you're talking about altering body proportions, that's not necessarily, that's not necessarily always wrong. I have clients, I'll give you an example. I had a client who was very unhappy as a headshot client. She was very unhappy with the unevenness of her eyes. In fact, one of her eyes was marginally smaller than the other, or bigger than the other, depending on which way around you look at it. And she specifically asked me. She's a very, very good-looking lady, by the way, and she specifically asked me to even out her eyes, proportionally, and and there's nothing wrong with that in my view. It's a fair enough request. Just like if somebody has a very prominent scar, on their face, I wouldn't necessarily take the scar out, but I would definitely make it less prominent, so that maybe the attention isn't focused on that particular feature on their face, because ultimately people have to be happy with that, with their own image, especially when it comes. I mean, in my view, especially when it comes to portrait photography or headshot photography, which in my view is still, for portrait photography, obviously. So, and if somebody has headshots done maybe to represent themselves on their company website or something like that, then I think that's perfectly fine. There are different rules when it comes to acting headshots, because of course the casting director needs to see.
You have to look like this.
Yeah, exactly. So the casting director needs to see what he's casting, obviously, or who he's actually inviting to an audition, because that's, of course, that can be very detrimental if if some person turns up and go like, that doesn't resemble what's on the headshot. But yeah, of course, different horses. But
you can go so deep into it that you can say, if I use different lighting or if I use different perspective with a different lens, I can make you look slimmer anyway. So
yeah, absolutely, definitely, yeah. That's certain proportion you can even them out even by just changing by changing the pose, for example, or moving the small eye closer to the camera so it appears to be. You can even out certain things.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And of course, Daniel says film was also altered on the backside of a paper print. Was the alteration to the development match? Yeah, 100%. It's really not necessarily that much of a problem. But nevertheless, I agree, it needs to be talked about and some kind of agreement reached, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I'm trying to do this every other week or something like that, on a fairly regular basis, over here on the Facebook group and on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube and you don't know about the Facebook group, head over to the Facebook group, join us there. That's where, discussions take place, and that's where we're generally communicating. And of course, if you're still watching and you haven't bought me a coffee yet, go over to buymeacoffee.com/camerashake, because I'm out of coffee and I need a refill, my friends. That's very true. That's one way that you can support the podcast, because obviously that will help immensely. Other than that, super interesting episode out at the moment, and of course, great episode coming out this Thursday. Remember, Thursday, 2 p.m. GMT, British time. Dave wants a mocha.
Yes, he does.
Dave wants a mocha. Cool. I should have different donation options and just call it coffee with milk, mocha,
Americano, cappuccino,
decaf.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah. So absolutely. You can support the podcast. It'd be super awesome. Support the podcast by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/camerashake. Super appreciate it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, we'll be back with a brand new episode on Thursday, as always, and another live stream, I guess, week after next or something. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and see you again next time.
See ya.